Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's Spur video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's Spur video. Day 10 will take us to the 21st of December, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with today's GFS and ECM ensembles. Moving around a couple of weeks. Going to have a look at the CFS E2 at the end of the video. For the next 4 weeks, that's going to take us into January, of course. I shall get on with that for you in a moment. Just say that the first video release day was our 7 AM upload. We've also released weekend forecast. Got the 18th Christmas update coming up for you. Can you believe it? This evening. So please like, share, subscribe on videos. And thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, well, let's start off with the Arctic oscillation observed and forecast then. So have a look at this. The AO is about to do a little bit of a plunge, I will say, in the second half of the month, if GFS ensembles are correct. At the moment, the Arctic oscillation is in positive territory. So when the AO, remember, the AO and NAO are just indexes reflecting the atmospheric state, not driving anything in their own terms. But when the AO is positive, we've got low pressure up over the Arctic and over the North Pole. Conversely, when the AO is negative, we've got high pressure blocking over the Arctic and over the North Pole. And so to get cold out of the pole and down into mid-latitudes, you generally need some sort of area of high pressure and blocking ridge to force that out. Well, at the moment, the Arctic oscillation is positive. It's forecast by GFS ensembles to stay positive for the next week. But then, as we go in towards right up towards Christmas, a lot of these GFS ensemble members are absolutely doing a plummet with the AO today and taking them down into really solidly negative sort of territory. This tells us that we probably have got some sort of blocking area of high pressure on a lot of these GFS ensemble members that is building up towards the Christmas period, and that would start to force cold air out of the pole into mid-latitudes. Of course, it's not as simple as that for us or for any particular area in the Northern Hemisphere, because it depends where that cold air is being forced out as to who gets it. So, you know, just because we have a very negative AO doesn't necessarily mean we will get cold air in our little portion of the Northern Hemisphere. It could push down into North America. It might move down to Asia, into eastern parts of Europe. You know, that kind of idea. But definitely interesting that the AO is going really very negative on a lot of those GFS ensemble members. At the same time, the NAO is forecast to go negative as well. So this time we're measuring air pressure between Iceland and the Azores, and we've got a positive NAO. Then we'll have low pressure around Iceland, high pressure through the Azores, and that's like a typical zone of westerly setup that we get in winter. But when the NAO goes negative, you tend to get higher pressure on Iceland and lower pressure through the Azores. Again, same as with the AO, we're going to stay positive with the NAO up to the middle part of the month, but then running up towards the Christmas period, it does look as though the NAO is also trending negative. So with both of these indexes trending negative, this could be a signal for colder weather as we move towards Christmas. How interesting will that be? Central temperature is looking like this. The CT is currently standing at 5.2. That's just 0.2 of a degree above average. That will lift up in the next few days. We are in some very mild weather for the next 3 or 4 days. And then I expect it will get somewhere quite close to around 6 degrees, maybe a little bit above. Then it'll probably start to drop again towards the end of next week as we begin to pull in some rather colder air under higher pressure. Not Arctic, you know, not Siberian, Easterlies or northerlies, just turning a little bit colder under the high pressure with frost and fog. If I have a quick look at the central in temperature for December. So this is CT page from UK Met going all the way back to 1659. It's the longest and most reliable temperature record anywhere on Earth, of course. So this is where December's, but further back you go, like it says 1600s, obviously it's only a snapshot of what the conditions were there. It's not particularly reliable. But anyway, this is where December's number will be placed. Just here, and of course the final yearly number will go there as well. So only 2 more numbers to be placed for this year, for 2021, and then we will be done with the year. So I want to just have a quick look at December over recent years. So last year we came out 5.0. That was a little bit cooler. It's our coolest November since 2017, where was that 4.8. But these are not particularly cold December. So our last properly cold December, it's a December to remember, back in 2018. and what a cold month it was. I say last properly cold December, it's actually extraordinarily cold, with a central in temperature of minus 0.7. That's the first time we had a negative CET for December since 1890, more about that in a moment, and the first time we had a negative CET month since February 1986. It came as such a shock after a prolonged period, you know, prolonged warmer period since the late 1980s, really, and it just suddenly came out of nowhere. But 2010 overall was quite a cold year anyway, with an abnormally cold yearly CET of 8.86, very unusual sort of year in 2010. But that was our last extremely cold December, and it was virtually the coldest on record. Not many years after that comes 2015, which is the warmest December on record, and what a month that was as well. So as extraordinarily cold as 2010 was in December, so 2015 was extraordinarily mild with a CET of 9.7. Gosh, that absolutely smashed the previous records from 1974 and also 1934 respectively. So in December 1974 we are 8.1, and we get the same CET for December in 1934, again 8.1. But of course 2015 absolutely smashes that totally, over a degree, about a degree and a half, over a degree and a half warmer, 9.7, which just goes to show you how extremely mild December can get, you know, if you pull in the correct air mass. Of course, we've got a super El Nino going on then, and we can already say from where we are for CET right now that we are not going to get our warmest CET for December on record. Neither, though, will we get our coldest CET on record for December, and that's, as I say, back in 1890. That one comes out at minus 0.8. So look how close 2010 was to being the coldest December on CET record since 1659. Just 0.1 of a degree off it. And say, so that freezer in 2010 started at the end of November, like the last week of November to the last week of December was like a 4-week very cold period. If that freeze-up had started 2 or 3 days later, you know, in the last 2 or 3 days of November, and carried on 2 or 3 days later to New Year of 2010, 2011, then we would have got an all-time cold CET record. It was only the fact that the last 3-4 days of the month turned a little bit milder that prevented us getting the coldest December on record for the CET since 1659, and what an extraordinary achievement that would have been. But anyway, it was only 0.1 of a degree off it, and yeah, the December to remember certainly standing out there as being an extremely cold month. Before that, cold December, so we have one in 2009, quite coldish at 3.1, another one in 2008 at 3.5. I mean, they're not desperately cold, but they are quite cold. There was another pretty chilly one in 2001 at 3.6. A couple of genuinely cold Decembers in 1995 and 1996, respectively. So December 1995 comes out at 2.3. December 1996 comes out at 2.9. They are properly cold months, particularly so December 1995, which is actually the coldest month of that winter of 95-96, which is a proper cold winter as well. Yeah, you know, that had regularly easterly winds, one of those funny months where high pressure over Scandinavia a lot, and regular sort of easterlies. And then, of course, we have December 1981. So that one, very cold month, almost a sub-zero CET, December at 0.3 degrees. I'm sure a lot of people remember December 1981 as being very cold and frozen, snow-covered up until just after Christmas. Then it got a little bit milder for a couple of weeks, and then the cold came back in January of 1982. So anyway, that takes you through December over the past few years for the CET. I thought we'd just have a quick look at that and put it all into context. So we're going to wait and see where the number is placed, well, what the number is when it's placed here, you know, for December 2021. And then, of course, we will get our yearly CET temperature as well, which will be placed there. So not long to go until we find out how the CET looks for this year overall. Right, so these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. The next couple of weeks, the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London, starting off a little bit below average at the moment, but the upper air temperatures are on the up now. They're going to stay generally above average for the next week, from the 11th to 19th December, above average with the upper air temperature. It's not going to be as straightforward as that, though, because this is going to be associated with high pressure. So as we go through next week, we will find things gradually getting cold with an increasing risk of frost and fog. And then we're running into the Christmas period, and we have a lot of scats. We have got a cooling trend, clearly, as we go into the Christmas period. This period just here, we are seeing the upper air temperatures cooling down. There's a lot of scats within there, so we've got like two clusters, really. A cluster of GFS ensemble members that are keeping things relatively mild with the upper air temperatures, and a cluster of GFS ensemble members that are getting much colder around and over the Christmas period. I mean, there are one or two, but are really getting very, very cold indeed. Going down to -10 at 850 HPA. They're at the low end of the range, but clearly there is a cooling trend that's going on. It's all associated with where this area of high pressure is going to sit, how far north will the high pressure go. More about that in a moment. Very dry as well over the next couple of weeks. Look at this, barely any measurable precipitation at all for London from around the 15th of December to around the 21st. This period just here, exceptionally dry. It does start to get a little bit more assessment, maybe towards the Christmas period, but I mean, that's a long way off, and there's only a few precipitation spikes even then. So it is going to be very, very dry over the next couple of weeks. If we have a look at the surface temperatures, you can see that they're going to be cooling down. So the next few days are going to be mild, with temperatures into double digits, day and night for London. But as we go towards Christmas, the ensembles is definitely cooling down. You know, we have got some of these ensemble members becoming really quite cold. Some of them are going below freezing. Well, these temperature graphs generally are, you know, a couple of degrees warmer than the reality as well. So, so if it's like suggesting night frost with minimums around freezing and maximums around 5 or 6 degrees, it will be a couple of degrees colder than that probably in reality. So it does also, things will be getting colder as we move towards the Christmas period. But that will be associated with high pressure, so it won't be all that much snow. If we look at the snow row, there's not much to be seen there until very late on, where there are a few little snow spikes that are going on. Right, so upper air temperatures, surface temperature, I should say, temperature anomaly looking like that from the 11th to 19th December, generally above average for the UK and most parts of Europe as well. Going to be quite a mild week to come. And precipitation anomalies should be 11th to 19th December. They're going to be drier than average too. The latest wind flow map from earthnorthschool.net shows that the west-southwests are setting in, and that's bringing that milder air back in from off the Atlantic. It's how the latest UK Met Euro is looking pretty mild on Tuesday, but there will be some wind and rain around as we go through the next few days' time. It's high pressure building up from the south, so that by next weekend, this time next week, Saturday, 18th December, we're firmly under high pressure. And, you know, because high pressure is centrally located over the country, we'll start to lose some mild southwesterly, and we'll begin to cool things down under that area of high pressure with an increased risk of frost and fog. Where the high pressure goes beyond that, that is what's going to determine what happens at Christmas. This is how the GFS midnight run is looking, again, pretty mild on Tuesday. That carries on through the middle part of the week as well. Then the high pressure builds up and takes over at the end of the week and into next weekend. We've got a 1040 millibar area of high pressure right over top of the country, mainly dry, and an increasing risk of frost and fog. Now, look at this high pressure trying to ridge northwards. This is why the AO and NAO are going negative on those graphs. You know, it's because the high pressure that starts off from southern Europe is trying to push northwards. It is ridging northwards from France, UK, up to Iceland and up to Greenland there. How far north that high pressure gets will determine how far south the northerly on its eastern side gets. But that high pressure is definitely having a go, pushing up to Greenland and Iceland. So by the time we get through to Monday, 20th of December, we're still under the high pressure, but we are pulling in some quite cold air just to the east from these northerly winds around the eastern side of the area of high pressure. Then around the 21st, which is day 10, has another go at pushing northward. So here it goes again on the move once more, trying to get itself up to Greenland and Iceland. Again, we've got these northerly winds bringing cold air into much of northern Europe. That will start to push down to like Germany and Poland, turning much colder there. And those north and northeast winds, we're kind of on the periphery of it, but we've only got to get the high pressure a little bit further northwards and westwards, and we will start to pull in much colder air from the north and from the northeast. That's how we get 23rd of December, the eve of Christmas Eve. You know, it looks poised out, doesn't it? You could see us staying under high pressure for Christmas, and it will be cold with frost and fog, but there is like a real northerly that's going on the eastern side of that high pressure over much of northeast Europe, and pushing also down into like central, some western parts of Europe, even into eastern parts of France, for example. So if that high pressure just go a little bit further northwestwards, we would start to pull in some very cold air from the east. Says the upper air temperature showing that on 23rd of December, we have got the -5 Celsius iceberg through the eastern part of the country. So it is cold anyway, you know, but the coldest of the air is over the other side of the North Sea. See how finely balanced this is, how poised it is. But much of Northern Europe, we said this yesterday, much of Northern Europe being absolutely plunged into the freezer with those north or northeasterly winds. So as it happens, this high pressure, this GFS run keeps this high pressure sitting over the country as we go through to Christmas, so it remains dry, frosty and cold for Christmas. But the true cold, the snubby cold, is like still across the northern, eastern, and now into southeastern parts of Europe. So for those watching in the Balkans, that gets really cold down in the southeastern part of Europe. Maybe snow even into parts of Italy there. We would still be cold, don't get me wrong, we would still be cold with frost and fog, but the proper wintry, you know, snubby cold, if you like, is across the northern and eastern parts of Europe. But it is a very, very finely run thing, this very finely balanced. As we get to the end of GFS midnight run on the 27%, we're still under that area of high pressure, maintaining dry, cold and frosty weather. The 6Z looks like this, again with west-south westerly winds through the middle part of the week, going to be generally mild. High pressure building up from the south as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend. High pressure takes over. Lots of dry, fine weather. And it will get colder under that area of high pressure as the wind is pulling in from other continents. So frost and fog for the weekend. Again, notice high pressure by the start of next week is trying to push northwards. It's trying to get itself up towards Iceland and into Greenland. Doesn't quite achieve it, so it just sits over the country at day 10 on the 21st of December. Again, maintaining frost and fog most probably. Then the high pressure begins to slip southwards as we go towards Christmas, so it starts to get milder for Scotland, although England and Wales will still be frosty and foggy for Christmas under that area of high pressure. And that's how we'll just get to the end of the GFS 6Z. Again, we're maintaining high pressure right over the top of the country, the coldest area going down the eastern side of Europe. If we go back to the ensemble graph, let's quickly go back to that. You can see from the green line that that's one of the mildest options within the GFS ensembles, actually. So the GFS 6Z today was like one of the mildest ensemble member options, especially so late on. It was an outlier. It wasn't an outlier because it does have some ensembles doing the same, but it's up there, you know, at the warmest end of the range, if you like, at the mildest end of the range over Christmas period. And we've got these ones down here that are much colder. So there is a big split there for Christmas. Right, so that's the 6Z done. Let's have a look at the GA. If you're enjoying this video, then please smash the like button, make sure you sub to the channel. Thank you so much for doing that. And drop a comment, let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. Thank you so much. Right, GM bringing me southwesterly winds on Tuesday. Then into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, high pressure takes over. Becomes mainly dry, but it will start to get colder under that area of high pressure, with an increasing risk of frost and fog. Into the weekend, next weekend, mainly dry and high pressure. Again, frost and fog will be a concern. Notice again the high pressure is pushing northwards as we get to the beginning of the following week. It's only 20%. The high pressure is going northwards up towards Iceland. Greenland. Cold air is pulling down across much of northern Europe on the eastern side of that high, and that's how I look at day 10 with the high pressure somewhere between Iceland and Scotland, and really cold across much of northern Europe. Again, most of northern Europe is plunging to freezer there by day 10. We're on the periphery of it. If we could just maintain that high pressure in that position, or take it just a little bit further north, you've got to go a little bit further northwards, we would start to pull in very cold east or northeast winds just in time for Christmas, and we would probably start bringing snow showers to the east as well. And then the ECM WF looks like that. Once more, we're mild on Tuesday, winds in from the southwest, and over the end of the week into weekend, high pressure is dominating weather. I'm going backwards. High pressure is dominating weather over the end of the week and into weekend, with an increasing risk of frost and fog. We get towards the beginning of next week, that high pressure look, it's trying to push north. It probably takes as far north as any of the models early next week. This is probably getting to Greenland and Iceland here on Monday the 20th of December. Cold air is plunging southwards into Scandinavia. That's how look on Tuesday, 21st December, day 10. Actually, this has a high pressure further northwest. This is centering the high pressure very close to Iceland, and consequently, we are really close to pulling in some properly cold air from the north and from the northeast. So we have got -5 Celsius iceberg pushing through the country there because we've got just that little bit more of a northeasterly type wind. Notice Scandinavia is getting very, very cold, and we could start pulling that very cold air, of course, if that high pressure was to stick in that position. It's so finely balanced, this, so poised between just being sort of general frost and fog and quite a chilly Christmas, or actually being something notably cold. What we can say at the moment, it does look as though a notably mild Christmas is looking quite unlikely, but never, you know, never say never with the weather, and this is all over 10 days away. Right, the precipitation forecast based on that ECM run looks like this. So there will be rain coming and going over the next couple of days, and then it's going to get drier later on in the week. And then basically we're into dry weather right way through to day 10, although a few wintry showers just beginning to show their hand in the northeast by day 10 as we start to bring in that northeasterly wind. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which gets us to the 21st, I should say, of December. 17 members of the ECM ensembles have above average heights over to the northern country, reaching into country mainly dry, but bringing in those winds from the northeast, so quite cold, and that does include the control and the operational run. We have 16 with high pressure between the UK and Norway. That's a little bit more of an easterly, still mainly dry and quite cold. We have 13 with high pressure more or less over the top of the country. That's kind of like what the GFS output is showing. That's frost and fog, but the coldest there with that is passing to our east and northeast. And then we've got 5 again with what looks like a fully formed sort of Scandinavian high ridging towards Scotland, winds coming in from an easterly direction. Most or all of the options look cold with that. It's only, you know, it's only the detail about where the high pressure is sitting as to how cold it is, whether we open the door to those east and northeasterly winds. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to Boxing Day. We have 13 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure sitting over top of the country. On the 26th of December, mainly dry and frosty. We have another 13 with a proper Scandinavian high, ridging towards Greenland and Iceland. And that would be bringing in a very cold, potentially, I'd say very cold, it would be like potentially a very cold, genuine sort of easterly wind. We have 11 with high pressure to the north of Scotland, going to Greenland and Iceland. That's a little bit more north-northeasterly, but of course that is still going to be cold. We have 8 with high pressure ridging through the country and away to our east. Low pressure is up here. That's trying to return us to a zonal westerly flow, kind of like what the 6 said is trying to do around Christmas. And then we have 6 with high pressure to the west of Ireland. Low pressure is to our east. So that's trying to bring the wind in from the Atlantic. Will probably would still be quite cold with winds in from like a northerly direction. A lot of options there, and it's all to play for, really. The CFSV2 finally, and then we're done. So it's a 500 millibar heights break down to week periods. The first week period is going to take us from the 11th to the 17th of December. The coming week will have above average heights to our south, and below average heights will be away to the northwest. It's going to be mainly dry and will be quite mild in the weekend until we start getting a little bit of an inversion later on in the week that could produce some frost and fog. Week 2 will be the 18th of December to Christmas Eve, 24th, with high pressure again over top of the country. Will be mostly dry and probably quite cold at this point. The model will say mild, I'm sure, but because it can't see the inversion going on underneath high pressure because it's low level cold. But I reckon that will be like really quite frosty and foggy running up towards Christmas. And then week 3 is the 25th of December, Christmas Day, of course, to New Year's Eve, 31st. So we've got high pressure then between Greenland and also Scotland, or between Iceland and Scotland, I suppose. So winds will be in from the northeast with that. Could be quite cold, very cold across eastern parts of Europe, by the way, with this trough of low pressure. And then we go through to week 4, which is going to be the first week of January, New Year's Day, to the 7th of January, and high pressure then is away to our northwest, still looking potentially very cold and wintry for much of east and southeast Europe, but the position of high means that we're still probably bringing him in from like an east or northeast direction, so I suspect that would be quite cold, even if it's relatively dry. Probably wouldn't be much snow around, but you know, it would be cold right way into early January. Temperature anomalies for week 1, 11th, 17th of December there, milder than average, above average temperatures in week 1. Starts looking a little bit colder in week 2, actually, which is the 18th, 24th December. I thought Mo would probably still be going mild then, but actually, certainly for England and Wales anyway, it looks like it's already started to pick up on something colder. And then that intensifies as we go through into week 3, which is the 25th of December, Christmas Day to New Year's Eve, basically. And it is genuinely cold on average, especially so for England and Wales. Notice most parts of Europe as well looking really cold through that Christmas to New Year week. Meanwhile, over on the other side of America, much of southern and eastern America, you know, the Midwest, for example, looking very mild there. So one of those very unusual situations where it's mild in the east of America and cold across much of Europe. And it goes on into week 4 as well, which is the 1st to the 7th of January. Again, most parts of America look very mild, but over on our side of the Atlantic, we're still looking quite cold, especially for England and Wales. And you can see how that cold air goes all the way back into Russia and is sort of pushing into most parts of Europe. So yeah, quite a cold scene around Christmas and New Year for many parts of the continent. That's right, weeks 3 and 4. It's very unreliable, but you know, it's just a snapshot and a signal that we might be in for some quite cold weather across many parts of Europe due to the proximity of the high pressure going northwards. Right, so that's it. We're done with this video. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, make sure to sub to the channel. Thank you so much for doing that, and drop a comment and so much about this and all our bad videos. Don't forget to your friends and family to subscribe as well. We are grinding ever more to 13,000 subscribers. When we get to 13k, we are going to give away an Amazon voucher, but it's worth £30. So, you know, £30 to 13k is coming, but we've got to get to 13k first. We need to put on around 70 subscribers now to get to 12.9k. So please give us a sub, tell friends and family to subscribe as well. And thank you so much. I'm going to be back shortly, or a little bit later on this evening, actually, so it won't be all that shortly in a few hours. We'll be back with the 18th Christmas update. We'll have a look at the GFS 12Z operational run and see how that is looking for Christmas. So that's coming up a little bit later on this evening, probably around 7ish. And then tomorrow we're going to have a 7 AM upload, of course, 7 AM broadcast. We will also have a 10 to 14 day as well tomorrow, and if that wasn't enough, we will do a live stream at 6 o'clock, and I think we'll do Ensembles Watch live for you at 6 o'clock tomorrow. How does that sound? So that's all coming up tomorrow, but got the Christmas update still to come today. You enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this video, and that's all for now, and thanks for watching.